Unwilling to give her kid the truth, a single mother employs a guy to pretend to be her daughter's father. Megumi's father abandoned her and her mother when she was a little child. Asako, her mother, chose to hire an actor to trick the little girl into believing he was her father, rather than facing a life without a father figure in the years that followed. Watch to see the entire absurdity of this massive family deception. Megumi's demeanor changed dramatically, and Asako noted that her daughter was quieter and more reserved when Megumi was around 10 years old. Asako eventually learned that her daughter had been the victim of bullying, which sadly happens frequently to children of single parents in Japan. When that failed, Asako turned to Megumi's school's instructors for assistance, but she had reached her breaking point. To support her suffering daughter, Asako had another idea, but it would be the start of a convoluted and protracted deception. It would be great for parents to stop their children from being bullied, maybe by involving the parents of the bullies, but Asako chose not to follow this path. The best course of action to halt the mocking and tormenting was, instead, to hire an actor to impersonate Megumi's father. For those of us in the West, hiring a father figure for a child may seem like the most ridiculous thing ever. But hiring a relative for a rental is not unheard of in Japan. You may really get in touch with agencies in Japan to hire an actor to cover for someone who is absent or MIA. Need a date to your cousin's wedding, for instance, so your relatives won't question you about why you're still single? These companies have got your back. Since these agencies are so well liked in Japan, Asako made the decision to appoint a guy to take Megumi's father's place. After interviewing 5 candidates, she ultimately decided to hire Mr. Takashi. He seemed to be the most approachable to me. I just went with my gut, Asako stated in a BBC interview. He's incredibly polite and lovely. Takashi has a long history of working as a fictitious companion. He had taken on the roles of friends, dads, business people, and boyfriends. He even played the groom in 5 fictitious marriages. Takashi watched movies to make him feel like Megumi's dad. He discussed Seeing the Descendants, starring George Clooney, about a reckless parent thrust into parenting following a family tragedy, and Little Miss Sunshine, which is about a dysfunctional family on a road trip, in an interview with the BBC. Before Takashi met Megumi, Asako and Takashi had many meetings to plan his role. She described her expectations for him as a father and what she intended when she presented the stranger to her kid. First, I wanted him to say how sorry he was that he couldn't be in Megumi's life until then, Asako said in reference to Takashi's desire to make amends to Megumi for leaving her. Second, I desired for him to hear everything she had to say. When Asako's father remarried and started a new family, she informed her daughter that he still wanted to communicate with his firstborn child. Megumi, then 10 years old, was stunned and ultimately decided to meet the guy she thought was her biological father. Takashi's longest part to date would now be that of Megumi's father, Yamada. When Takashi thinks back on his first encounter with Megumi, he still says, "It was a very complicated emotion. I sensed her disdain when she asked me why I hadn't visited her earlier." Asako claims that once he started seeing Megumi and her mother a few times a month, the 10-year-old's conduct started to clearly shift. Megumi eventually started to become happier and more gregarious. She loved to talk. She was lively. She even wanted to go back to school. And that's when I thought, this has all been worth it. There was a charge for Takashi's services. He had to adopt false identities and personas, and he had to lie on a regular basis while strictly adhering to the law. He now played the intricate role of Megumi's father, which came at Asako's expense of around $90 a visit. Asako had to put in extra effort even if her compensation was comfortable in order to compensate Takashi for his services. Upon seeing her daughter's happiness, Asako thought the money was well spent. Takashi recalls how she grew happier and more self-assured over time. He explains, "The 3 of us used to get together when I used to meet her with Asako. However, she declared one day, 'I want to go out, just the 2 of us, with my father.' She grasped my hand for the first time when I took her out." Takashi is still performing his longest part to date as Megumi's father, a young adult, 10 years after their initial meeting. According to him, Yamada, his character, has become quite close to his daughter and loves her in a way that a father would. However, Takashi's affection for her differs from hers, with Takashi's character becoming closer to the mother and daughter and feeling like a member of the family. The twisted connection becomes even more weird. To further complicate matters, Asako acknowledged that she was starting to feel something for Takashi's imaginary character, Yamada. "I feel so at ease when the three of us are together. We converse, have fun, and show each other a lot of kindness. He has been a part of our life for a very long time." Asako told the BBC, "I would like to marry him and start a real family. I'm obviously getting fooled by her own lies. Transforming between personas and identities is crucial to this work, but I'm only human, so it would be untrue to claim that I don't experience any emotional distress when I tell that child I love them. I must constantly remind myself that this is a business, though, and I must do it. I've expressed my feelings to him, but he informed me directly that he's here because it's his work. It's so intricate," Asako said. "I'm very aware that he's only with us because we're paying him." Asako has made it clear that she wants Takashi to play Yamada for as long as possible, weaving a larger web of falsehoods and deceit without regard for the psychological harm it would and has already caused her daughter. According to Asako, the ideal situation is that she continues to think of him as her father. Asako has said that she would want Takashi to be present for Megumi's marriage and to one day play the role of grandfather to her children. Takashi is aware that if he needs to take on the role of grandpa to Megumi's children, the stakes may climb higher and higher and the falsehoods would go longer and longer. Takashi stated, "I'd like to think that she might thank me for taking care of her if Megumi were ever to know the truth. I believe I've had a significant role in her life. I know it's a bit much to expect, but at least I want her to acknowledge our assistance." Asako maintains that she lied to her daughter about her father in order to rescue her. "I know some people think it's foolish to pay money to lie to my own daughter and to have a pretend father, but I was desperate," she stated. Even as an adult, Megumi continues to believe that Takashi is her biological father. Asako still pays Takashi for his services, and he is continuing portraying Yamada. All identities were altered for the BBC interview so that Megumi wouldn't know the real story. Thank you for seeing this wonderful video again.